Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story TV and the Her Story podcast. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, how old you are, and share your story with us today.
Hi, everybody. I'm Margo Lovett. I am based here in Southern California in the United States of America, and I am age 68 years old. My story really begins when I found my voice at a job that I worked for 26 years. Yes, I come from that era where your parents say, get that good job, that good paying job, and you keep it until you retire. I worked there for 26 years. I had conversations with people all over the globe. I mean, just my goodness, that was my job to speak with the customers. But one day I got a phone call and it chilled me to my bone. It was a man that was just spewing with rage, and it was terrifying. I would never forget how he. Oh, if he could have just leapt through the phone, he would have. And the thing about it, he wasn't just anybody. He was a contractor, someone who worked hand in glove with this major corporation that I was an employee of. And it left me literally shaking in my chair. And the people around me saw how it really brought me to my knees, and I made a report to HR. A month went by. I'm still shaking. I'm mad. I can't get past what happened to me that day, that fateful conversation. So a month later, I go to HR. I'm wondering what happened. They're telling me we don't have access to the report. We don't even know where it's at. So I'm super mad by that time. Another month goes by, and by that time, I am visiting a therapist. I'm telling you, I am so messed up. That phone call triggered later on. I found out it triggered domestic violence that happened to me when I was 19 years old, and I never resolved it. But I call it a fateful day, the day that I took that call, because this happened the end of August. By December, the therapist told me, it's you or the job, and I chose me. So that good job that my family said, you better keep that good job, I had to say goodbye. Got a few things. Corporate always tells you to record everything. I got a few papers and I was gone. I didn't retire. I quit. Took a year off. Worked with a therapist. My blood pressure was off. My mind was off. I'm going to work crying every day and I am a total mess. So, like I say, I take a year off. And about that year, about the top of that total year, my therapist says, I think you're ready. You're ready to say goodbye to all of those hurts. Go to the ocean, do whatever you need to do, and I want you to have a ceremony. So I thought, oh boy, I think you're right, Doc. I think you're right. I'm ready. So I got a bright fuchsia piece of paper. I wrote down all of those things that I wanted to say goodbye to. I listed them one by one. I drove to the Pacific Ocean and I went to a specific location where I could walk out onto the rocks. And I balled that piece of paper up. I flung it out into that Pacific Ocean as far as I could. I was ready to go ahead and retrieve it if the tide brought it back, because I was determined. That day I knew I was not going to be haunted by anything. New me, brand new day. And do you know that tide took it out and it never came back? And those things that were listed on that sheet of paper never bothered me again. I refused. I took a stand. So, in my new freedom, I decided to come back to what was a hobby, and it was podcasting. I've been doing a music show, but this new me was deeper than a music show. I lost my voice, I lost my confidence, but I knew I wanted to turn this hobby into a business. So I dug down deep and I invested. I threw all bets on me. I invested in the best advisor that I could find. And in a couple of months, we had a podcast together. Her business, her voice, her conversation, because I knew my new voice was to help other women find their voice. And when you're coming from corporate, you need to know that there's inspiration, there's how to information, and you can do it. I wanted to build that platform for women, and that's exactly what I did. As God would have it, I was given the opportunity to take this brand new platform over to a network. And I'm very competitive. And once I got over there, I tell you what, I believed in the concept and I had my confidence up. I'll go marching over there. And before long, this brand new podcast network was bringing in well over 1 million downloads and streams. So my competitive self, I always was in the top 4 categories. So that gave me a whole lot of listeners over there. Proof of concept. That's what I like to say. But then when COVID struck, I felt the urge to teach. I knew that there were not many minority women standing in their voice in this thing of podcasting that I had fallen in love with. I saw the power of it, and it just, oh my goodness, it was such an open season, and it still is as far as I'm concerned. So I began to teach podcasting. And let me tell you, all of this started at age 61. And I began to teach podcasting at an age when some people are just say they're babysitting and they're in their rocking chair. Hey, I'm learning new software techniques. I'm throwing all bets on me. I'm sharpening my tools because I want women to know that at age 65, 66, I'm ready to teach you podcasting. We're not going to stumble over the technology. I'm going to give you the theory. I'm going to give you the mechanics, and I'm going to give you the technology. And when I'm finished with you, you are going to be a podcaster. Find your voice. Voice, is our podcast is real estate. And when we look at how many women of color are actually podcasting these days, we are in a minority. And I'm out to make sure that every woman has their voice and you are owning it. We have to own our voice. Do you know there are parts of this world where women are being persecuted because they are speaking out? Here in the States, we can speak out. Most parts of Africa and Europe, we can speak out. And when we build and own our own podcast, guess what? That's our house. That's our real estate. And we build the table and we pull our chair up to that table. And when we are dead and dust and gone, guess what? Our podcast is going to live on. It's going to be the footprint and the hallmark that she said she was going to do it. And she did it. And somebody somewhere in this big terrestrial ball is going to have access to the podcast that I created and you created. Or if you don't want to create the podcast that you decided you were going to guest on, whichever way you go about it. It is imperative, and it is my life mission to make sure that I help you find your voice, build that platform out, own your voice, and invest in yourself always. Because when you present yourself to the world, you'll have no reason to play small. You will be invigorated. That energy that surges inside of every fiber of my being when I talk about podcasting and helping other women, I can't control it. I don't even want to tap it down. Why should I? For 26 years, I worked in corporate America doing something that I didn't really like. I was made a lot of money for somebody else. Made the impact for that company. Why can't the balance of my latter years make a difference for the people that I'm assigned to make a difference to? Why can't I do that? It goes back to me investigating my why. My why is strong. I'm supposed to do this. I am supposed to be a guest on podcasts like this, on shows like this. Thank you, Gertrude. I'm supposed to show up and be me because I have one grandson, and in a couple of months, I'm going to have a granddaughter. I think I'll end up with two grandkids before this thing is over, and they have to know that grandma loved podcasting. Grandma helped people. Grandma had in her office upstairs, she would devote time and she would love every minute of that time that she spent podcasting. So it's just important that we find our voice and we find people who don't make us feel silly or stupid as we are on our journey. Podcasting can be tough. And to actually get into the groove of it, to build yours out with expertise so that you have a firm foundation, it can be a bit dicey. And my my business is not to make you feel stupid. My business is not to lord over you and act like, well, my goodness, you're 65 years old. You ought to know how to do this and you ought to know how to do that. Guess what? I come to this thing with a employee's mindset. So to build out a business that is sustainable, I have to lean up on and glean from an advisor. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's wise. That's how you do it. That's how you make a difference. That's how you make those, as they say, those boss moves. That's how it's done. So it is up to me to make sure that when you come to me for a podcast, that I teach you the way that I learned without any shame, with a whole lot of questions, and you'll come away with confidence. Because at the end of the day, wherever you go, you're going to need your energy and you're going to need your confidence. Whatever subject matter you bring to the table, you back it up with authenticity and you back it up with your confidence. I'm not going to come on here and try to act like I'm Gertrude. I'm Margo Lovett. And you know what? I put a whole lot of time and money behind learning who I am and being all right with this woman. Being all right with who I have grown to be. That's a part of the reinvention process. It's ongoing. I had to reinvent myself to become a podcaster, to become a podcast guest, to become an instrument in this great big world so that you can find your voice, so that you can come out of corporate with your feet on the ground, not with your hair on fire like I came out. I came out of a burning building, hauling butt, and trying to see what's next. If that's your scenario, know that I've been there and done that. I've been through that. It was a fateful day, that day that I took that phone call, but it was the day of fate for me. It was time for me to recognize what I'd done in the past, and that's tamp down the horrible thing that happened to me when I was a child, when I was 19 years old, when I was a young adult. I tamped that down rather than deal with it, rather than look at it, and rather than make it work for my good. So today, I can tell you, I know what it feels like. And I know that it takes time to work through these places that those kind of incidents take you. I know what it's like to hear that voice that sends a chill down your spine, that a voice that that has you ducking and dodging. I know what that's like. So I'm grateful to be able to share my story. I'm Margo Lovett, and I reinvented myself to become a podcaster.
Margo, your story is truly inspirational. You know, when I meet women like you, it makes me want to wake up every single day and do what I do with passion. Now, I have a question for you is this. There could be a woman who's listening right now, is on the edge, ready to take that move, quit her job, take a leap of faith into the future. From what life has taught you up to this point, what three nuggets of wisdom would you give her? Or
The first nugget that I would give her would be to plan. Listen to your gut. I actually, what my whole being was in a state of unrest because I knew that I was 61 when that happened, and in my family we retire at 65. You've been stuffing money away in your 401k, so at 65 you're ready to come out. So I had a plan. I just didn't plan to walk away like I did, and it did impact my savings. So my first nugget is to plan. Have a date when this is it. And then the backup to that date, you have to be ready for what may come up. That caught me totally off guard. I didn't see that coming, but I did have a plan. The second thing is form relationships. Don't just jump out there. I would do whatever I'm aspiring to do. I would make sure that I'm working on it on the weekends, after work. I would make sure that I'm establishing my footprint in that arena so that you're not a novice, so that you have some traction digitally and in print. And then the third thing is I would not go it alone. I would take my time and find an advisor. Find somebody who's doing what you want to do in every way. And I would hook my train to them. Invest in yourself because you're worth it. And get yourself with somebody who can help you, guide you. Because as I said earlier, we come from with a employee mindset. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to need help. And maybe the person that you think is going to help you, that's not the one. Give yourself plenty of time to find the one. Those are my three nuggets.
I love that. Yeah, there's no point in trying to reinvent the wheel, right? There are people out there who can make it a shortcut route to get to where you want. They've made the mistakes. You're going to stand on their shoulders and not have a difficult time in achieving your goals.
Yes.
So, you're now an established podcaster. You
Yes.
are building your platform, you have your following. Tell us, what is the impact for anybody who's listening on having your own podcast? What does it do for your business and for your life?
Oh my goodness, Gertrude. Something happened to me today. I was over at Kinko's, and well, I had been over there I go over there maybe every other month or something like that. And I remember going over there one day and I was talking to one of the ladies and I told her that I'm a podcaster. And she asked me, well, what's the name of your podcast? I told her her business, her voice, her conversation. She wrote it down. People always say that they're going to do something, and I went on out the store. Well, I came on. That was a couple of weeks ago. No, couple of months ago. So I go back over there today, And she's looking at something that I have on my flash drive because I want something printed. And she says, I know that name. Oh, I listened to your podcast. You came in here a couple of months ago. I listened to your podcast. I love what you're doing. That's the impact that you never know who needs what you're putting out into the world. You never know who's waiting on that message that only you can deliver. People want to say that it's a red ocean in podcasting. No, it's not, because I don't care if 50 billion people are talking about how to put a light bulb in a light socket. Guess what? They can't talk about it, teach it, impart that information to the world the way you can. So it's always going to be your time to share what has to be said. Always, always. And when the woman told me that she listened to some episodes and she loved the podcast, oh my goodness, that's the impact. That's the impact. And that's not the first time that that's happened. You know, that's not. She said, I knew you by your voice, and then I saw the name.
What social impact projects are you involved in? What are you doing through your business to help others in your community? Where does your passion lie to make a difference in the world?
My passion is in teaching podcasting at co-working spaces, and I mean just giving people an opportunity to attend a class. And you're not charging through the wazoo. Well, yes, it is a business, but for the community, I believe that we have to sow into our community. So in my hometown, we are in talks now. So in August, I am going to teach at my old library, the library that was in the neighborhood where I grew up. It had been on my mind. Want to do something. I want to do something for Rockford. I'm going to be teaching at my old library. And it's that type of thing that I like to do. That's how I like to give back, because we don't have enough people, enough women of color actually podcasting. So any chance I get to teach podcasting and help other women in particular, boomer women in particular, build their table, I'm there. And we don't have to charge all the time. We can just give that information to people and see and let them decide what they want to do with it. So that as far as social impact goes, that's where I'm at. That's how I operate these days.
Now, if I can take you into the future with my final question, we're going to pretend that time is an illusion and you're now 100 years old and you're sitting in your rocking chair surrounded by your children, your great grandchildren, and you're reflecting back on your life. If the present you could go into the future and have a conversation with that woman, what would you say to her based on how she's led you that far?
I would tell her to live like my mother lived. When it was after my dad passed, she was in her 80s, mid 80s, and that woman lived a totally different life. She traveled. We had parties at the house almost every week. Uh, she wore her kitten heel shoes, high heel shoes, until almost 6 months before she passed. But she lived and she laughed and she was unapologetic about her fears, about her family, about how she was learning something new each and every day. And I'm just going to share this tidbit with you. I have an advisor, a business advisor, and she told me, she says, I never dream about any of my clients, but you came to me in a dream. She said, and we were walking here in Vegas, and you were telling me what you didn't want the business to look like any longer. And she said, the reason why I remember it so vividly is because you said, at 83 years old, I don't want to do such and such and such any longer. So I know that I'm going to be podcasting a good long while. I'm going to gather stories from fabulous men and women for a good long while. And I'll sit in that rocking chair at age 100 and I'll think back about all of the women and men who brought their lives into my life and how I visited different parts of the country through them and how I was able to make a small difference in their lives. And if at 101 the Lord wants to take me on, I will have done my life's work. That's how I'll be rolling at age 100 on up.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Margo, for coming online today and gracing us with your beautiful spirit, your presence. Your energy is infectious. I feel energized and ready to take on my day today. Thank you
Thank,
so much.
thank
And
you,
thank
Gertrude.
you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story movement is attracting some phenomenal women who are here to shine the light and show you the way. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing woman. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And bye for now. Thank you again, Margo.
Thank you, Gertrude.
Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.